Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Karen Stone. I'm the Clerk of the Executive Council and Secretary to Cabinet. Ministers, please come forward as your name is called to swear your oath of office. And we'll be starting with Barry Petton.
I, Barry Petton, being appointed to be the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs, Minister of Community Engagement, Registrar General, and Deputy Government House Leader, do swear that I diligently and faithfully perform the duties of those offices while I hold the same to the best of my ability. So help me God.
We'll have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Craig Purdy.
I, Craig Hardy, being appointed to be the Minister responsible for the office of the Chief Information Officer, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully perform the duties of this office while I hold the same to the best of my ability.
Lloyd Parrott.
I, Lloyd Parrott, being appointed the Minister responsible for red tape reduction, Minister of Government Services, Minister of Labour, and Minister responsible for Workplace NL, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully perform the duties of these offices while I hold to the same to the best of my ability.
Christopher Tibbs.
I, Christopher Tibbs, being appointed to the Minister of Social Supports and Well-being, Minister of Housing, Minister of Poverty Reduction, and Minister responsible for the status of persons with disabilities, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully perform the duties of these offices while I hold the same to be the best of my ability. So help me God.
Jody Wall.
I, Jody Wall, being appointed to be the Minister of Health and Community Services, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, and Minister responsible for Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully perform the duties of these offices while I hold the same to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Andrea Barber.
I, Andrea Barber, being appointed to the Minister of Environment, Conservation, and Climate Change, and Minister responsible for the Multiple Materials Stewardship Board, do swear that I diligently and faithfully perform the duties of these offices while I hold the same to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Mike Guzny.
I, Mike Guzny, being appointed to be Minister of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Minister of Sport, Recreation and Parks, Minister responsible for Picture NL, Minister responsible for Newfoundland and Labrador Arts Council, and Minister responsible for Pippi Park Commission, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully perform the duties of these offices while I hold the same to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations, ministers. This concludes the formal part of our ceremony. We invite guests to proceed to the main entrance and hallway area of Government House while preparations occur to hold a reception for invited guests. Their honors and the Premier will receive guests in the reception room very shortly. Please rise.
Welcome. As you know, we've just made some realignment in our cabinet, and I do this to get ready for the next phase, which is about delivering on major projects, which is about unlocking the potential of Labrador, which is about streamlining government services and making ourselves more efficient as we get ready for what comes next, but never forgetting the three pillars of which we got elected and which we have in our platform: better health care, lower taxes, and safer communities. That's what we will continue to deliver on.
Health is the biggest department in the province. Why do we have a new health minister?
Well, both myself and and Minister Evans, who has done a tremendous job in health, moving that file along, talked about the opportunities in front of us now in major projects. And what I intend to do is, as the minister responsible for Labrador Affairs and Indigenous Affairs, the responsibility for that department is going to be significant in the coming years, in the coming decade. So one of the things we talked about was her focus will be on Labrador and the impacts there. And so creating a separate health department, we talked about that, and that's where we made the change. But I will also add, and I will tell you now, and I will certainly provide more information as we announce it, but Minister Evans, as the Minister of Labrador Affairs, will lead a team, including MHA Russell, including MHA Power, that will go up and meet, and other people will be on that team. But we want to go to Labrador, and we want to meet with all the stakeholders, and we want to listen to some of the opportunities that they tell us are there, to talk about their concerns about what they see are some of the needs that are required. And it's important for us to do that and get started on that immediately as we work towards definitive agreements.
Can you speak to why Minister Wall was the right person for this portfolio?
If all of you know Minister Wall and look at the tremendous job he's done in the portfolio that he was in terms of his commitment to people, in terms of his passion for people, in terms of his knowledge, and I think Minister Wall will be an excellent choice for health.
Premier, it's been about 2 months since the dispute with Inundation and your government saying cutting off the timeline to 300 years. You just talked about your work with Labrador. We saw Inundation at the signing the other day. Do you still believe that they are cut off to a 300-year cap?
Well,
and if can just finish, where are you with that review of the archaeology offices saying that's the timeline?
I spoke with the new elected Grand Chief the other day. We are committed to getting together and working through the challenges that we had. And also, though, talking about the tremendous opportunity that is there for the Innu Nation. So we're looking to sitting down and meeting, and when the Grand Chief is ready, I'll be willing to meet with her.
My question was about the timeline, though.
But
are you still?
With all due respect, what I've said is we're going to turn around and we're going to sit down with the Grand Chief of the Innu Nation and have discussions, and that's exactly what I intend to do.
Why did you want to make changes to some of the other departments? I think about tourism is one of them, and climate change.
Yeah, because previously I had environment linked in with municipal affairs, and when we took a look at that, we literally had municipal affairs reporting to two different ministers, one being responsible for the infrastructure piece and the other being responsible for the other parts of it. So we thought, hey, maybe it would be better for all if we had one minister responsible. On the environment piece, I wanted to separate that because of exactly what we announced this past week. When we think of the tremendous opportunities that we have in development that will take place, and of course environmental impacts, environmental assessments will be a key part of all of this. And we want to make sure we keep that process moving, have a dedicated minister responsible for that will help in that. And all of you, if you look at Minister Barber's bio, you will see that her previous life, she was involved in the environmental piece and working in the environment, so I think we've got a great fit.
How much did the red tape reduction in the government department?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the recommendations that we wanted to follow up on is to put someone directly responsible for red tape reduction, to signal to businesses and communities that we want to make sure that we don't get in the way, but we are there to assist with businesses and to assist with development. And one of the things for that is to clearly focus on how we can reduce red tape in government. I think the Minister of Mines and Energy certainly is well aware of some of the challenges facing businesses, and as we move forward into development of all of these major projects, and so we'll have a key focus on that.
Just going back to Minister Barber, how much did her past controversies play a role in shuffling her out of the previous portfolios that she was in?
Not at all, because as I said, this was about what we want to do going forward. When you think about, as I said, the opportunities facing this province, the potential, the opportunities with this new and better deal that we have, and what will happen in Labrador and all of the other projects, the offshore oil and everything, having a department dedicated to the environment, separating that out and having a minister stand alone with that was important to me.
Premier, I want to...
still have a lot of questions about the New Deal, Churchill Falls New Deal. Will you answer them shortly?
Pardon?
The opposition still have a lot of questions about Churchill Falls Agreement. Will you answer them?
Well, the opposition, I find it somewhat ironic that the leader of the opposition and the leader of the third party, who both supported a previous MOU that had less power, less transmission, and less value, are now suggesting that somehow or other there's something that we left on the table. They were in favor of the old MOU. What I can tell you is now we have a new and better deal that does exactly what we said we were going to do. So we're willing to, we're looking forward to any and all questions.
Premier, I want to ask you about the meeting that took place yesterday, other premiers, about the trade negotiations ongoing. Can you just talk about what happened there?
Sure, absolutely. The Prime Minister gave us an update on his talk with President Trump, where they are. He's confident that they will reach an agreement. And as part of this agreement, he asked all of the provinces, as a sign of good faith, would we put U.S. liquor back on our shelves, and we all agreed.
The Auditor General criticized the, revolving door of housing ministers over the last couple of years. Now you're shuffling that portfolio again. Do you have any concerns about that?
Well, I think what we've done is we've laid a great foundation. I think Minister Wall has done a fantastic job of laying a foundation, and Minister Tibbs will build on that.
How long will the special session of the House of Assembly be when it starts on?
Well, that's before the House of Assembly and the Management Commission and all of those things that will determine that. But we will be ready to open the House on September 14th.
And will the whole committee, the negotiating committee, be appearing at this special session to answer questions?
The idea is to have the negotiating team at the debate.
Will the review panel, like the independent review committee, will they be present?
No, they've done their job and they submitted their report, and that's actually the recommendations of that report that we followed when we negotiated the new and better deal.
And the New Nation, will they be there?
They necessarily will not be at the debate, but certainly what we intend to do is continue our discussions with them. They're an integral part of this, as you know. They are part of it with the federal government and the offer of taking an equity stake in the wind energy project. So we intend to sit down with the New Nation, and that's one of the critical pieces that has to happen.
What about the advisors like JP Morgan and Power Advisory?
That's yet to be determined.
You've taken away a lot of the key roles that Leila Evans had. Looking back, do you think that it was too much for one minister to have all of those portfolios under the same door?
Not at all. I think Leila Evans has proven herself, Minister Evans has proven herself time and time again. And she has done tremendous work on behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. She will continue to do tremendous work on behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
7 members of your caucus received new portfolios today. Have you issued any specific mandate letters for those, or is that in the plans?
Not at this time, but they will come.
What goes into putting American booze back on the shelves? Do you have to the NLC has gotten rid of most of its inventory, and this is a two-parter. Do you think Newfoundlanders will buy American booze?
Well, that's interesting questions, because you're absolutely right. I mean, and now it's up to the NLC to determine, place their orders, the procurement of booze. But one of the questions I did ask yesterday was how much volume of U.S. liquor is still on our shelves? Because don't forget, we put U.S. liquor back on our shelves to sell it off and to give the profits from that sales to our food bank associations, which we did, and we were able to give them over $500,000. So now I think there's something like $400,000 worth of inventory left on our shelves. So I simply said, we know what we shouldn't buy now when it comes to ordering from the U.S. But the question of whether or not people will support it, that's the individual's choice, obviously.
Premier, for the people of Labrador, one thing we didn't hear from the federal government when they were here talking about, investing in mines and what is about the Atlantic Loop, which was promised by the previous federal government. So you're doing all of this work. We would have nothing without that part of the province. What can you tell them that you're going to do in terms of agreements and principles for people in those communities moving forward with Churchill Falls?
Absolutely. I think one of the key things of this deal is the optionality of it. The fact that we will now have power. And that was the key, the thing to me of value. And we talk a lot about selling that power, and we could sell some of it for 150%. But I have said, what I want to focus on is how do we build industry, and building industries in Labrador. You know, that's what this focuses on, whether it's mining or other industries. And that's where we ought to be. And that's what my goal is. I have said publicly that, look, if I never sold any of our excess power to Quebec, I'd be happy, because it would mean we're using it all for our own province.
I should have been more clear. I meant to speak about accessibility for people in Labrador. They can barely afford a plane ticket most times with those costs.
That's why we improved and enhanced the under Minister Evans the air transport programs.
But nothing new coming for Labrador in terms of getting to in and out of...
Well, that's part of the whole review that I just mentioned a few minutes ago of what that Minister Evans will undertake to look at what is the challenges that are going to be faced in Labrador and how we can work around that. That's all part of that.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.